What up, babes? Chapter 1075. The name of the chapter is Labo Stratum Death Game. Now, this is kind of a setup chapter. This is the first chapter in a while I feel like that was kind of boring. Let a lot of people's hopes down, I'm pretty sure. It's still a little in the dark of if there is still a secret man out there. I think that there's a good argument for that, but I'm not even quite sure. But there's shit going down, and we're going to get into that now. But right off the bat, I think you can see why Caesar, why Queen, and why Sanji's dad, Mr. Vinsmoke himself, are so upset is because Vegapunk passed them up in every single way. And I feel like he's the type of genius where smart people are just not personable. So he seemed pretty cocky about it. Now they're all salty, kind of dealing with the fact that they're not the guy. And I can almost guarantee you that's kind of why they had their falling out. He had his meeting with the 5 elders, which is the cover page of this one, which is huge because I don't think many normal people are allowed to meet with these people. So the fact that he was able to, I think that kind of changed the trajectory of those 4 working together in harmony. But moving on to the actual chapter, we do have Shaka. I like that he's kind of doing the play-by-play for all of this. And immediately Pythagoras, having been blown up last chapter, they're like, where is he at? And then there's a shadow that disables the cameras. Now, this is the only thing that you can think might be still a mystery person. But I don't know. It's weird. It could just be a Lunafista, but this does seem like a very targeted and tactile thing that I don't know if they're capable of. They definitely could be, but I don't know if they are. So that's definitely really interesting. But now the lab is under attack. All the communication and technology has just about been cut out. And now we're getting a look at all these different groups. And what I like about all these different groups is we can kind of look at them and see like how much risk are in all these different groups. So what I believe to be the weakest group is on the 3rd floor of Building A. It is Nami, Edison, and Brooke. Now, don't sleep on Brooke, and Nami also recently got a power-up, but if they run into a Lunafista, I think they're done for. I think that they need help, unless Edison can pull some shit out that I'm not aware of, but I don't know if they're able to take down a Lunafista, just them, unless it's time for Brooke's power-up, because that didn't really happen in Wano. It didn't really happen. He didn't really have that fight. He didn't really have a new ability that he attained. So we'll see, but that is without question the weakest group of the bunch. They're talking about treasure and some different things, talking about man-made diamonds, and then we move on to the 2nd floor Building A, which is an interesting group. We have Atlas, who already got her shit worked by Lucci. We have Chopper, and we have Robin. Now, I think they're a bit stronger. I don't think much stronger. I think this is without question the second weakest group. So we'll see what they're capable of, but I'm not entirely sure there either. Like if they run into a Lunafista, they could be done for, which I'm assuming they're going to just based off how this chapter ended, but we'll see. They're talking about artificial humans here, and we're getting a little bit of technology, a little bit of dialogue as we're moving through. Luffy goes up to Shaka and says, hey, the communication's out. And I think that theories behind Shaka being a bad guy are kind of misrooted, because it seems like he's being very honest and he's not doing this. But that could be part of his whole thing. I mean, he is a genius after all, so who knows for sure. They say that there's someone else in the lab, and then we get a solid group. Not technically the strongest because Zoro and Luffy are literally together, but we have Sanji, Stussy, and Jinbei. And now, to be honest, these 3, from what we've seen from Stussy, it's kind of tough to place her in any certain area. That group might be the strongest, debatably. Like, I know it's Zoro and Luffy, and Gear 5 is stupid, but that's 2 on 3, and these 3 are like some elite type dudes. Like, they are some powerful guys, for sure. So they're in the 2nd floor of Building B. They're kind of in a safe spot at the moment, but they're gonna have to rush into action. I think have to play rescuers for a lot of these other groups that are going to be struggling pretty sure against some of these Lunafistas. I saw online that some people were upset that Sanji said that you can consider me your loyal dog, but like, who gives a shit? He's a simp. We know he's a simp. His stock continues to plummet until he does something amazing, which I think Oda has overestimated how the community would receive him beating up Queen, because everyone's downplaying it a lot. I think everyone thinks Sanji's really strong from his power up. in Wano, but Queen itself is not a big enough feat for I think a lot of us to get fully on board with Sanji's redemption. Not only from being a bitch in Whole Cake, but just not really doing a whole lot post time skip. Just kind of being a simp and that kind of being his role. And then we move on to the next group, the third floor building scene. As soon as I saw this, I was like, isn't that where Pythagoras got his shit worked? And it was. York, she's like the one that experiences everything. She's like the glutton. She takes the shits. She does all that stuff. They're looking at this explosion. They're like, what's going on here? We have Usopp, Frankie, York, and Atlas. No, not Atlas. I'm forgetting her name. Lilith in this group, which I believe is probably their combat specialist, which is why I don't think this is the weakest group either. That and Frankie's a fiend. Frankie's a phenom. Frankie can carry this squad. He can. I mean, Frankie is that broken. And not only that, but this is kind of like his little mini arc in the way that, okay, you've had Vegapunk in the past and now you're with Vegapunk on his island. And it's kind of like, I think his time to shine, and I think he's going to do that. Usopp kind of weighing the group down a little bit, but we'll see. We'll definitely see. But this is when we get the crazy twist, I guess, of this chapter, that the Lunafistas are no longer on their side. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that Mr. J. Garcia himself has put out the order? Are they already there? Possible. They immediately thought that it was going to be Vegapunk, but of course they have no idea what we know, that J. Garcia is literally on the way or already there. I don't know how he's able to make that order happen, but it was either him or Vegapunk. And because Vegapunk's disappeared, I have to think that it's J. Garcia, but I'm not sure. It could be a part of Vegapunk's master plan. They could think that he's the bad guy, but I don't see any evil will in him, so we'll have to wait and see. York gets immediately turned to stone by the Lunafista little boa, and then just kicked to the side, and she's not fucking around. She's ready to fight immediately. So now this group has kind of been weakened. The bridge gets destroyed with Pythagoras, Frankie, Usopp, and Lilith all falling. And then they're like, shit, we can't even contact anyone because that's all been shot out. And now it's kind of time to fight, it seems. So she's kind of just smiling at them. She might not even be wanting to fight them. That might be a different mission. They might be trying to go after something else. I'm not entirely sure. But that's definitely something that's going on. And then we go back to the command room. And what I like about the command room is that's where Zoro and Luffy and Shaka are, which are, I mean, Shaka is my favorite of all the Stellas, and then Zoro and Luffy together is just a broken combination. But they get cornered by S-Hawk and S-Bear, who are out there, and now they're attacking. Zoro was holding them off by himself. Of course, that must have not been for that long. But they were gunning for CP0, which is interesting. I think that now that they're hostages and now that they failed their job, the government's fine taking them out. Jay Garcia does not give a shit about their lives. They're like, let's just kill them and go from there. But even Zoro's like, them dying with cuffs on, like being unable to defend themselves, just doesn't sit right with me. But they're kind of sealing up the exit, and now it's time to fight. S-Bear and S-Hog versus Luffy and Zoro. And now Kaku and Lucci get up. The comedy, it ends with a comedy bit at the end, and he's like, we can have a temporary alliance to take these dudes out. What do you guys say? And they have no response. It's just the most disgusted face. They're like, what? They're like, I don't want that. It's kind of the same face you saw when Kid, Law, and Luffy were all looking at each other when the blasts were gonna hit, and they're all like. But I love these faces later in the post-time skip because we never lose that side of the comedy piece of One Piece, which I think is so important. But like I said, not a lot happened, except this was just kind of a setup chapter with now it's time to fight these Lunafistas. We thought that it was plenty of times to do that before, but it looks like now is actually the time to do it. But more importantly than that, it looks like the Admiral, Borsalino, and Jay Garcia are probably there. Probably. My question is, how did they get past the 50 PX3s, which if they already did, that is firepower that the Straw Hats are not ready for. And if it's not, then who is it? And who did this? And Vegapunk does start to make some sense there, but I don't know. Tell me what you think. Hope you guys have a good weekend. We are done for the day. No break again, which is pretty sweet. That's going to be 3 in a row. I'll see you next week. Bye.